Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I have a story that will send chills down your spine and serve as a stark reminder for every parent out there. It's a story about a picture-perfect family, a sweet, innocent little girl, and a horrifying secret that was only brought to light by a hidden camera. Meet Sarah and David, a loving couple whose world revolved around their bright and cheerful 5-year-old daughter, Emily. Emily was their ray of sunshine, her laughter filling every corner of their home with joy. They felt like the luckiest parents in the world. But one ordinary evening, as Sarah was getting Emily ready for bed, she noticed something that made her heart skip a beat: a small, dark bruise on her daughter's arm. At first, Sarah brushed it off. Emily was an active child, always running, jumping, and playing. A little bruise here, and there was normal, right? She told herself it was probably from a fall at the park or a rough-and-tumble game with her friends. She kissed the bruise, tucked Emily into bed, and tried to put it out of her mind. But a few days later, another bruise appeared on Emily's other arm, then another on her leg. These weren't just small marks. They were a series of discolored spots that seemed to appear without any explanation. Emily, when asked, would just shrug, unable to say how she got them. The initial unease Sarah felt began to morph into a cold, creeping fear. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. Both Sarah and David worked full-time, so they had hired a nanny, Rachel, to look after Emily during the day. On the surface, Rachel was the perfect nanny. She was in her late 20s, had a warm smile, and came with glowing references. She always seemed so kind, patient, and caring with Emily. The little girl even seemed to like her. But as the bruises continued to appear, Sarah couldn't shake the growing suspicion in her gut. Her maternal instinct was screaming that something wasn't right. Sarah started observing Rachel more closely. She noticed subtle things, a flicker of annoyance in Rachel's eyes when Emily was being too loud, a certain sharpness in her tone that was quickly masked by a sweet smile whenever Sarah or David walked into the room. David was skeptical at first, reminding Sarah that Rachel had been wonderful and that they shouldn't jump to conclusions. But Sarah's intuition was relentless. She knew she had to find out the truth for Emily's sake. Desperate for answers and terrified of what they might find, Sarah and David made a difficult decision. They'd purchased a small, discreet camera, often disguised as an everyday household object, and secretly installed it in their living room, the main area where Emily and Rachel spent their day. The thought of spying in their own home felt invasive and wrong, but the fear for their daughter's safety overshadowed everything else. They had to know what was happening when they weren't there. The next morning felt agonizingly slow. Sarah dropped Emily off at school, gave Rachel her usual friendly greeting, and then went to work, her stomach in knots. David felt the same tension. All day they both stared at the clock, a sense of dread hanging over them. They just wanted the day to be over so they could finally see what the camera had captured. Was Sarah's fear just a product of an overactive imagination, or was their worst nightmare about to come true? That evening, after putting a tired Emily to bed, Sarah and David sat down together in front of their laptop. Their hands trembled as they clicked on the video file from the hidden camera. The footage began, and at first everything seemed normal. Rachel was helping Emily with a puzzle on the floor. They saw Rachel smiling, helping Emily find the right pieces. For a moment, a wave of relief washed over Sarah. Maybe she had been wrong. But then, the atmosphere on the screen shifted. Emily accidentally knocked over a glass of water, spilling it on the carpet. The change in Rachel was immediate and terrifying. Her warm smile vanished, replaced by a mask of pure rage. The video captured her screaming at the terrified 5-year-old, her voice sharp and cruel. Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. David's face hardened, his knuckles turning white as he gripped the edge of the table. What they saw next shattered their world into a million pieces. The footage showed Rachel grabbing Emily's arm with brutal force, the same arm where Sarah had first seen a bruise. She shook the little girl violently, yelling inches from her face. Then she hit her. Not once, but several times. The camera, hidden in plain sight, recorded every horrifying moment. Every slap, every cruel grab, every tear that streamed down their daughter's face as she cowered in fear. Sarah let out a gut-wrenching sob, collapsing into David's arms. The image of their precious child being hurt by the very person they trusted to protect her was unbearable. It was a betrayal of the highest order. The woman they had welcomed into their home, the woman who smiled at them every day, was a monster hiding in plain sight. David, filled with a cold, righteous fury, didn't hesitate. He picked up the phone and dialed the police. Within the hour, police officers arrived at their home. Sarah and David, still in shock, showed them the video footage. The officers' expressions turned grim as they watched the undeniable evidence of abuse. Rachel was arrested that very night, taken from her home, completely unaware that her dark secret had been exposed. The investigation that followed uncovered an even more disturbing truth. Rachel had a history. She had worked for several other families before, and similar suspicions had been raised, but no one had ever managed to gather concrete proof. Parents had fired her based on their instincts, but without evidence, she was free to move on to another unsuspecting family, to another innocent child. Sarah and David's hidden camera had finally put an end to her cycle of abuse. The court case was emotionally draining for the family. The day the footage was played as evidence was agonizing. Sarah held Emily tight in her arms, shielding her from the screen, but unable to block out the sounds. She cried silently as she relived the nightmare, her tears falling for her daughter and for all the other children who might have suffered at Rachel's hands. Justice, however, was finally served. Faced with the irrefutable video evidence, the court found Rachel guilty of child abuse. She was sentenced to a significant prison term, ensuring she could never harm another child again. The ordeal left deep scars on the family, but it also ignited a fire within Sarah. She couldn't stand the thought of another family going through what they had endured. She decided to turn her pain into purpose. Sarah started a non-profit organization dedicated to raising awareness about child abuse and educating parents on how to spot the signs. Her message was simple but powerful. Always trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't dismiss your gut feelings. Sarah's organization provides resources for parents, teaches them about the importance of thorough background checks, and encourages them to be vigilant. She shares her story not for sympathy, but to empower other parents to protect their children at all costs. She reminds everyone that sometimes a bruise tells a story that a child is too scared or too young to put into words. This story is a chilling reminder that monsters don't always look like monsters. They can wear a friendly smile and come with glowing recommendations. It's up to us as parents, guardians, and a community to be the protectors our children need. Never ignore the signs, no matter how small they seem. Thank you for listening to this incredibly important story. If it touched you, please share it to help spread awareness and protect more children. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel for more true stories that matter. Stay safe and always look out for one another.